Okay, a couple of things about the Honda Cub engine while I'm thinking about this. The flywheel has a threaded deal here, and this nut comes off and the puller threads into it and then pushes down on the crankshaft and pulls the flywheel off. Don't use anything other than the proper puller. Don't use a jaw puller, because what you'll do is you'll reach in there and booger things up. Trust me on this one. Buy the right tool or borrow it. Now that I believe, I remember straight, a friend of mine had the puller and I simply borrowed it from him. And so I don't have the puller, so I'm not going to take this off. But I'm going to get inside this. I'm going to look, and I want you to see that right there. As you can see, the points, I put a piece of it's not sandpaper, it'll come to me in a minute. It's Captain Trips, sorry. It's all the medication, and I can't think right. It's called emery cloth, and it goes in there. You can clean up the points a little bit. I borrowed this from my wife. She made sure and told me that it cost $7, and that if I didn't return it to her, I would be buying her another one. So I'm going to set that down, and I'm not going to use that because it doesn't work anyways. You can't get in there with that because the tip doesn't have any surface on it. It's just a clean surface. So what I did is with my pick, I opened those points up and I folded a little piece of emery cloth in there, and what I've been doing is I've been just pulling it back and forth and cleaning it up that way. And so if you just take yourself a little piece of emery cloth and then blow them out, and then you can set them. They say 12 to 18 or something like that, and there's a screw right here. Come on, there it is. There's a screw right there. You can unloosen that screw, and then there's a little slot right there that you can get a screwdriver in, and you can open and close those and set those points. But you have to have it where it's open, and where they're open, and you'll see them open, and wherever they're open, then you can set them from that. But I seen a lot of 12 to 18, and I seen a lot of solid 16s. So I'm going to set mine to 16 thousandths. That sounds about right. The valves said 2 to 4 thousandths, and so I'm going to go 3 thousandths on them. There's a timing mark right here. See this little notch in the case right there? That's the timing mark. Where it says F is where it fires, where it says T is where it's top dead center. You might have to spool this engine over a couple of times in order to get the valves where they're both loose. If you listen, I've set the top one, and I haven't set the bottom one yet. The bottom ones, they had about 6 thousandths clearance in them, and this is how I did it. First thing I did is I took my 9mm wrench, it's not 10, it's 9, and I put it on there, and then I broke them both loose because some animal had set himself on this wrench and torqued them down to about 100 foot-pounds. So I loosened them up first, and the teeniest key that I had was a 5mm, yet it was still too small, 4mm. So I'm guessing this is probably 2mm, maybe 3.25 or something like that. So I just used a crescent wrench, and I fit my 3 thousandths feeler gauge right in there, and I was able to I was able to then tighten that up while I held that, and the 3/1000 slips in and out. And of course, it's looser than it is tight. You want looser than it is tight. Tight valves burn, loose valves just make noise. If I had my druthers between having a 2000s valve set or 6000s, I take the 6 because it'll rattle like hell, but I know they won't burn. So that's what you want. And you want it dead cold when you set your valves. Very cold. So I'm going to set both of these at 3. You don't have to turn the engine over. Both of them are, both of the valves are sealing because it's top dead center and the engine's fixing to fire, or it has fired. It has fired. It fires before TDC. It has fired, so both valves are closed, sealing everything. So you know you can set your clearances when it's like that. I think I had to rotate this twice, I believe. Another thing I've seen is when I blow this thing out, because it had a bunch of crud in it. I looked at this case, it had a bunch of crud in it too. So I had some water setting, and I'll probably clean that up. And when I put this thing back together, I'll put a little bead of sealant around there, just to try to keep the water out of it, or moisture out of it. That'd probably be a good idea. You've got a lot of stuff coming up here from the chain. If you accidentally got caught in a storm with this thing, you'd be slinging water all up into your electrics, and you don't want that. So you want a little seal of some sort there. So I'm going to do that also.